Hey YouTube, Kevin Cleary with a knife video. Today I'm not going to talk about a particular knife. I'm going to talk about a company, and that company is one that I really like. I am a fan of it, but as I go through this video I want to talk about two things, things I like and things I dislike. But I want to go on record by, starting off by saying, generally speaking, I am a fan, okay? Now, the other thing I'm going to say is I'm going to use that term in general a lot, because we're doing a company overview, okay? So I can't get really specific, and say, this particular or that particular detail is a problem. That would make this video take such a long time, okay? So I'm going to have to ask you right now to forgive me some glaring oversights, all right? But that's the only way this is going to work. So now, having said all that, let's get into some knives. This is my Zero Tolerance 0560. One of my all-time favorite knives, and even if this was the only knife that I liked from Zero Tolerance, I would still have to say, hey, I like Zero Tolerance just for this knife, because it is truly a great one. I know that some people have had problems with it, but for me, this is one of the best production folding knives that you can buy, and I'm really sorry to see it going out of production. All right. So what is it that I like about Zero Tolerance as a company now? Not about this particular knife, but as a company. The first thing that I'm going to say on the positive side of this, now there are going to be some negatives coming up, but let's do the positives first. Positives are materials. Okay, the stuff that they make their knives out of are things that, if you're like me, if you're into knives, if you're into gear, you go, hey, that is pretty cool. Okay, I love the fact that I can have a knife with M390 steel in the blade. Okay, this is my 0562. I love the fact that I can have titanium and carbon fiber. Those things are just really cool. I love the fact that I can have a full titanium frame lock, right? Those are kinds of things that we don't always see in sort of budget-friendly knives. Now, not that Zero Tolerances are definitely very budget-friendly, but they are at a level that the average person could usually afford it. If they really want that, they could save up the couple $100 and buy one. It's not like, let's say a Bodega, which is one of my favorite mid-techs. Hey, I don't have $800 to drop on a knife, just in my own philosophy of how I use my money, okay? So Zero Tolerance is sort of attainable. So you can get high-end features, high-end materials at a fairly attainable price point. Now, I will say that is coming down a little bit. So, for example, this knife only sells for around, I don't know, $220, $230, maybe $250, where there was a time where Zero Tolerances, pretty much all of them were like really close to $300. So that's kind of nice. I'll talk about price point later, but even then, you got to consider steels, Elmax steel and CTS 204P and what else? S35VN. Those are all fairly high-end steels, and we find those on Zero Tolerances. So you're probably not going to find that in your $50 Spyderco Tenacious or whatever. Fill in the blank with whatever popular budget-friendly knife that you can think of. All right, so materials. Number two is details, okay? And this is one of the things I think we do pay for. We pay for a particular attention to detail, to a fit and finish, to features that are a little more well thought out, okay? Let's switch knives just so I can kind of keep showing you stuff. On my 0300, I love the 3D machined G10 and titanium. I love the pocket clip that just holds exactly right. It's not too tight, it's not too loose, it's not too deep carry, it's not, everything is just really well done. I love the very smooth deployment. Now, this is a washer pivot knife, which I really like. I've said before, I'm sort of on the fence about the ball bearing pivot. I'd like to see at least a few more offerings with the phosphor bronze bushings, but flips really well. It's really smooth. It's really well made. The lockup is comfortable. You could flip this over and over again and not get sore. So attention to those little details, things like lock bar inserts and over travel stops and lock bar stabilizers. Those are all little things that are appreciated. Even ball bearing pivots, although they're now coming at a lot of budget knives, but all that stuff is stuff that you go, that's just what I like to see if I pay that dollar amount for a knife, okay? That's really cool. One more example, you just have to indulge me here. The way that they've done the clip on the 0562 is genius, okay? I really, really like the way this is done. It's just exceptional. okay? So, we've said materials, we said details. How about designs? Okay, I think one of the things that makes you like or dislike a company is that if you look at all their designs and most of them you don't like, you know, well, I guess I don't like that company. If you look at their designs and most of them you like, which is the case with zero tolerance, you know, if you lined up all the zero tolerance knives, I would say, hey, I like most of those knives. Now, it's not going to be all. Remember, we're speaking in general terms here. But most of their designs are pretty well done designs. They're practical, they're functional, they're usable as tools, and that's all stuff that I look for in a design that I'm going to like. Now, as a bit of an aside, I should add that even their limited runs, their semi-customs, I think they call them, no, factory customs, I'm sorry I got the term wrong, but their factory customs, the 0392, and I'm sure there'll be others, those knives, they're really, really good. In fact, I can't think of off the top of my head, maybe if you know one that was a total flop, you can share it with us, but I can't think of any of the limited runs, you know, the Copperhead 801 or the 0600 or the 0777 or any of those. I think all of them have been really home runs, pretty successful, and the other thing I don't think there's any of them that have lost a lot of value. You know, I think if you paid your whatever $400 5 years ago for, you know, a 0600, you could at least sell it for what you paid, and I think you could probably sell it for a bit more than what you paid. So designs, I think, are generally speaking fairly good. Now I'm going to save for the negative one of the things that I think is changing about their designs, and I'll give you a hint. The 801 is a bit of a departure, okay, from what the 0300 is, okay, and I feel like this is a quintessential zero tolerance, and this is sort of a bit of a compromise, but we'll come back to that. Finally, their overall quality improvements. You know, there's been a number of things. For example, the new 0300, if you buy one that's produced this year, and I guess this will be the last year they're going to be produced, but you'll find that there's a lock bar insert. You know, that's pretty cool. That's a nice little feature that's been added, even though when these first came out, lock bar inserts were not a big thing. Since they are, they've made that minor improvement, and I think that's a good thing too. Overall, it's nice when they sort of listen to customers. Now, there are a couple points where you could say, what about this, or what about that ongoing problem, or what about new models you think if they made a mistake 2 models ago, they shouldn't do it again. Well, okay, but generally speaking, again, their overall quality improvements as time goes on is a good thing. Now, are there some negative things? Oh yeah, by the way, warranty. I've had really good luck with Kershaw Zero Tolerance warranty. That's another good thing that I'm going to peg on the list of positives that I like. Now there are some negatives. One of them I think is, you know, a change in vision. Okay, Zero Tolerance started out with the 0200, the 0300. I guess the 350 was pretty early, and there were some other ones, but they were this just hard use, hardcore company that said, okay, we're going to be like the go-to-war segment of Kershaw. Okay, you know, there's going to be EDCs and stuff like that, but if you really need a serious tool, you want a zero tolerance. And I love that. That kind of mindset is really attractive to me. So the fact that over the last couple of years there's been stuff like the 0801, does this seem like a go-to-war knife? No, it seems like a slightly overbuilt gentleman's folder. Okay, and I think that's what it is. I don't think this is a combat knife. How about the 0452? Very popular, very nice blade, super fast flipping action, by the way. But again, if someone said, you know, I'm going into the theater of war, or I'm going to go on a survival excursion, I would not recommend this as the folding knife to bring. Okay, I don't think that would be a good option. So for me, that means that's a bit of a departure for zero tolerance. Okay, so that's a negative. I know there have been some quality control issues. There have been. People have complained about different things over time. That's kind of a negative, although on the bright side, I will say, here's the 0560. When it first came out, there are all kinds. You know, go on the forums, watch some videos. You'll see a bunch of people having issues with their 0560. But now it's done and over with, okay? They've fixed the problems that they have. The LMAX isn't burnt anymore. The lockup doesn't have issues. Now everything is good. And so, although it's a negative, it's also a positive. I already mentioned I already mentioned some of the things pertaining to the direction that they're going now. Now I will say, it's not that I hate every knife they're coming out with or anything like that. I'm not suggesting that they've abandoned the overbuilt stuff. This is my 0562. I think this is a very tough, durable knife, okay? I would not hesitate to bring this or carry this if I was a police officer or a soldier or something like that. I think it's really well put together. So it's not that they've totally abandoned that, it's just that it's not as much of an emphasis maybe as it once was. Finally, let's talk just a little bit about price, because these are expensive, okay? You know, zero tolerance knives don't come cheap. Now, I think you have to realize that price is largely a function of marketing, okay? The price point is set not because, you know, they took out a calculator and added up every one of these materials and then said, well, if we add this much profit margin and it costs this much for labor, and if we're still going to make, that's not really how price is arrived at, okay? Price is arrived at by deciding, number one, what will people pay, because we want to charge as much as we can without putting people off, and number two, we want to charge enough that this retains its exclusivity. Okay, zero tolerance, their marketing plan is pride of ownership that comes partially from price, okay? And that's a deal. People want to know they paid more for something than other people. And so there is that very real marketing element of setting the price point for a blade. Okay, Rolexes do not cost $10,000 to produce. They cost $10,000 because people want to buy something, that a watch that costs $10,000. That's how Rolex is marketing their watches, okay? It's almost exclusively marketing, right? Now, although knives are not exclusively marketing, there is certainly a consideration of what materials are being used and what machining processes are going into this, and how many man hours it's going to take to produce each one. You know, those things are certainly factored into the cost. There's a big element of cost that is marketing. You want it to cost enough that it feels special, that it feels exclusive. Okay, so that's both a negative and a positive. You know, that's one of those things that you really go, okay, this is how much it costs if you really want a zero tolerance. And I obviously I think that's fair, because I have a few of them myself. But I just want other people to be aware that, you know, there are other knives that would cost a lot less that would do what a zero tolerance will do. Okay, so I like zero tolerance. I think they're a cool company. I like their blades. I specifically like a lot of their knives. At least 3 or 4 of their knives are on my short list of very, very, very favorites. Okay, and so to me that says a lot. I'm really interested to see what they're going to come up with. Blade show's coming up. I will be excited to see that. I don't know if this video will post before or after, so if it's after, go ahead in the comments and say, what did you like from Kershaw and Zero Tolerance after from that you saw at Blade Show? And there goes my remote. So on that note, that's all I've got to say. I'd love to hear your comments. What do you think of Zero Tolerance? Do you like the new direction? Do you not like it? What's your favorite Zero Tolerance? Or maybe you just hate them all together. And if you do, let me know why in the comments below. We'll talk to you soon.